Hi, I'm Emily, the Gambling Chef, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be cooking a Mediterranean baby potato salad. I wanted to stay on theme, and it was a little difficult to come up with a recipe, but once I settled on this, I was really happy with it. It is a twist on a typical potato salad. It is healthy, and it is really easy to make. So let's get started making our Mediterranean baby potato salad. You're joining me while I am in the middle of cutting up my baby potatoes. These are baby gold potatoes, or basically baby Yukon gold potatoes. And I like them for potato salad because they're not quite as starchy and they hold together really nicely. And they're also a little bit sweeter than like the baby red potatoes. So all you're gonna do is cut these in quarters. So I cut it in half and then I kind of hold it together with my fingers. And then I'm going to cut that in half again. And then you got your chunks like this. So it's pretty easy. I have a pot of water hanging out up here on my next to my cutting board. And I've been putting my potatoes in there as I've been chopping. So I'm going to do this last one. And I am going to put this into my pot of water, and I'm going to scoot my cutting board out of the way because we don't need this for a while. I have, actually, this is a good tip for you. So underneath this cutting board, I actually have some paper towel, and that actually keeps your cutting board from like rocking around when you're cutting on it. So that's actually a good tip. Here is my pot of potatoes that I have cut in quarters, and I have put enough water to cover them. Not too much more. The more water you put in here, the longer it is going to take for your potatoes to reach a boil. So this is going to go over to my stove now, and I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then we are going to lower the heat slightly and cook for about 8 minutes. So I will show you these though when we bring them to a boil. Okay, our potatoes are getting close. I did forget to do something, so part of what you actually do want to do at this point is put a generous handful or two of salt in your water. And I know that seems weird if you haven't done that before, but it's actually really good practice to do if you're boiling potatoes for potato salad, or if you're doing mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes be a little bit less generous with the salt because some of that moisture is going to stay with your potatoes more than the way we're going to drain these off. And you also, it's better to err on the side of caution. It's definitely not going to fully absorb into these cut potatoes, but it's super, super important to season your water. Otherwise, your potatoes taste like nothing, and it doesn't toughen your potatoes or do anything weird. So I'm just waiting for these to come to a full rolling boil before I set my timer, and I will show you what that looks like so you know what to look for. It's just going to be a couple more minutes. Okay, it actually wasn't even a couple more minutes. It was about another minute. Our potatoes have reached a full boil. I'm going to decrease the heat slightly to about a medium high, and that'll prevent the potatoes from boiling over. And I'm going to set my timer for 9 minutes. And these are just going to boil between 8 or 9 minutes. Probably either one is totally fine. If it looks like it's going to boil over, then just decrease your heat a little bit more. My gas stove's pretty powerful, but I know from experience that we're probably on a good heat setting. So these are just going to boil for your 8 or 9 minutes, and then we are going to let them cool off. But I'm going to join you before that happens because we've got a couple extra little steps that we're going to do. Nothing complicated. I do all this stuff so that you guys don't have to experiment, so that the recipe is as good as it can be when you try it out. And I think you're really going to like this one. So I'm very excited to share it with you. I will see you when our potatoes are done. All right, our potatoes finished cooking, and I turned off the timer. And believe me, this is a really foolproof way of cooking your potatoes. As long as they are actually legitimately boiling during that time period, they will definitely be cooked. But if you're not sure, you can take a knife and you can put it in through the middle, and it should be really easy to go through. And that's exactly what you're looking for. So these are going to cool off for about 5 or 7 minutes or so. And in the meantime, we are going to make our dressing. All right, I'm trying to film this in a way where you can see my measurements. So in this 2-cup measuring cup, I have a 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil, and I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. And the reason I'm filming it like this is so that you can see right here is my 3/4 cup marker. And we just need to add our fresh squeezed lemon juice until we hit that. So that's usually about 2 lemons, I find. I'm gonna get down lower so I can see just a little bit more. And we're about there. It doesn't have to be super duper precise, but I wanna make sure that it's not too tart and that we're good with everything. Again, I try to do these recipes so that you guys don't have to fiddle with them later, but you're always welcome to, of course. To this, I am going to add a tablespoon of Dijon mustard that are already pre-measured here. I'm actually really lucky. I almost didn't have enough Dijon mustard, which I didn't realize today, but we're good. So, tablespoon of Dijon mustard and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. We are going to be adding some salty ingredients to this potato salad, so we don't want to go super crazy on the salt, although a teaspoon is plenty. Potatoes tend to be a little bit needy as far as seasoning goes, but I found this proportion works really well. And then the way I like to mix this is just to give it a good whisk with a fork. If you have one of those little mini whisks, you can absolutely get in there and mix it with that also, but a fork is fine. Just gonna emulsify it, which the Dijon mustard is really gonna help you with. All right, that looks pretty good. The next thing we're gonna do is add this to our hot potatoes. Okay, so here are our potatoes. They are not cool by any means, but they are not steaming anymore, which is what we want. We don't wanna put this on them when they're like just out of the pan, but they do still need to be hot. So I'm pouring all of that delicious dressing that we just made over our potatoes. And then I'm gonna gently give them a quick stir. If you had overcooked your potatoes at this point, they would start to fall apart when you are stirring them. So you still wanna be gentle because they are tender, but that's one of the reasons that we didn't cook them to death. They're definitely cooked all the way through, but it's important to not get them mushy because if you do that and you start stirring them, they're gonna fall apart. So this is very warm. One thing we don't want to do, and I learned this from experience, is we don't want to put our ingredients into a bowl of warm potatoes. So these are actually going to go into the refrigerator uncovered because we don't want to steam them. They are definitely done cooking. And they are going to go in the refrigerator for at least 45 minutes. I'm going to set my timer for 45 minutes, and at that point, I'm going to start preparing the rest of our ingredients and our herbs to go in here. But I'm gonna let these hang out. They can actually go in your fridge overnight. Like if you wanted to start this recipe the day before, get to this point and then finish it, totally fine. You can absolutely do that. So I will see you in just about 45 minutes and we're gonna prepare the rest of our ingredients for this delicious Mediterranean potato salad. I am so excited to share it with you. All right, it's been about 45 minutes and I have stirred my potatoes a couple of times. Again, I don't know if I explained it, but it's important to put that dressing on while the potatoes are hot because it really absorbs into them. And that's why we did that. But since they're cooling off now, we should be safe to prepare the rest of our ingredients and we'll be able to add them safely to the potatoes. And the first thing that we're preparing here are these actually beautiful baby cucumbers. These can be hard to find in the grocery store. My grocery store doesn't always have these, but they did have them and I really like them. If you can't find them, then just use half of an English or hothouse cucumber. If you can find them, use about 2 of these baby cucumbers. And all we're gonna do with these guys is just take the very ends off. And then we are going to cut these in half, just like that, really easy. And then each of these halves, we are going to cut into kind of nice small pieces. And I'll show you the size we're looking for. We're looking for about this thick. We don't want it to be too thin because then they're just gonna fall apart when they get wet, but that is about the thickness that we are gonna go for. So I'm gonna chop these up and then I'm gonna put them, I have a mesh strainer back here. I'm gonna put them in the mesh strainer with a sprinkle of salt over them to just draw out any extra liquid because we don't want a watery potato salad. And then I'll show you the rest of our ingredients. All right, our next ingredient, as you can see, is these beautiful cherry tomatoes. These are organic cherry tomatoes. And all we're gonna do to prepare these, I washed them off. And the only thing I'm going to do is slice them carefully in half. You don't want to slice your fingers when you're doing this. So we're just going to half them like this. This is about a half a pint of these, like a half of a little carton that you get at the grocery store. So again, the only thing we're gonna do is take one and carefully slice it down the middle, and we're gonna set those aside and prepare our other ingredients. All right, next we have roasted red peppers. These come in a jar and they end up being about pieces like this. And how we're gonna prepare these is actually to take one of these, and I think for this recipe, this kind of thickness, I would cut one of those in half, and then we're gonna just cut that half into strips. So I will show you the size of the strips that we're going for. So we're going for about the size of strip, just bite size. Again, none of this has to be super precise. You can do more or less of any of these ingredients. You can add extra things to this that you want, but these are just the guidelines or your blueprint. And I'm going to finish slicing these up and I will continue with our next ingredient. Okay, next we have some beautiful Kalamata olives. I love olives. I like anything salty and pickled and briny. So this recipe, again, we're making Mediterranean potato salad. So we're taking inspiration from Italy, Greece, France, and I got to pick my favorite of those ingredients. And all we're gonna do with these is we want them about the same size as those cherry tomatoes. So we're only gonna just cut these guys in half. Very simple. If you want smaller pieces, again, you can absolutely quarter them, but I'm just gonna half these and I'm gonna set those aside. Okay, our last ingredient before we chop up our herbs is feta cheese. This is cow's milk feta. You can absolutely use a sheep's milk feta. It just tends to be a little funkier, and I actually prefer the cow's milk version probably because I grew up eating it. And I like funky cheeses, but I don't know. It's just kind of intense when you do the sheep's milk. But if you like that, absolutely go for it. So this is 2 ounces. I'm just gonna cut it in half, and then I'm gonna cut each half into quarters so that we get even cubes. And these are gonna break up a little bit when you stir them in anyway, but we're gonna try to start with even pieces. So cutting the quarters, and now I'm just gonna turn this sideways and we're gonna cut nice little cubes out of this. I'll show you what those look like because I am done right now. So we're looking for cubes that are about that size, not big cubes. You don't want a massive bunch of feta to bite into in your mouth. And again, these are gonna break down a little bit. They tend to stick together too, so you might have to break them apart. Don't mix these in. Like I have a container on the side here where I've been storing my ingredients that I've been preparing. Don't mix the feta into that. We're actually gonna add this last, because if you add it earlier and you start stirring it, then it's really gonna disintegrate into everything, and we don't want that to happen. So you are going to put this in a bowl, and then we're gonna chop our herbs. Okay, so the herbs that we're gonna use are chives, which are right here, and we have fresh parsley, and we're looking for about a tablespoon of each. I don't like raw red onions and things. I find them very crude. I know a lot of potato salads and other salads probably have them in there, and if you really love that flavor, go for it. But give the chives a shot. These are a little more of a delicate flavor, a little more well-rounded, I think, than like a green onion or scallion, but you can absolutely use those as well if you really like them. But we're gonna do chives for this recipe for something a little French and a little bit different. I'm just gonna show you really quickly. The best way to chop these is to get them stacked up like this with hopefully as even an end as you can get. And then you're just going to use your knuckles as a guide and carefully chop them like that. And then we're looking for about a tablespoon. And I'm gonna chop up the parsley. You can just hack into that with your knife and chop it up as thickly or finely as you want. And then we're gonna assemble our potato salad because we're done preparing our ingredients and it is time to eat. I just wanted to show you really quickly. Here are the ingredients. Here are the chives, again, about a tablespoon. And I actually misspoke. This should be about 2 tablespoons, 2 to 3 tablespoons of fresh parsley, which actually has a lot of flavor and it's terrific in Mediterranean food. All right, see you in a second. We're gonna put this together. Okay, here are our chilled potatoes. And you can see a lot of the dressing has absorbed, but we still have plenty in there for the rest of our friends that are going in here. And we are gonna go ahead and dump the tomatoes, red peppers, and Kalamata olives in there. Oh, I missed one. There we go. And here are the cucumbers that I've had sitting in a sieve. We don't need to wash these off. Just don't put too much salt on them. But we're just trying to draw out a little moisture. This shouldn't be watery. Then our herbs that we chopped. I just keep them on a paper towel, or you could keep them on a piece of aluminum foil or something like that. And we're gonna stir this together before we stir the cheese in. Look how incredible this looks though. I love this recipe. I really wanted to come up with a potato salad recipe that wasn't standard, boring, not that there's anything wrong with, German style potato salad or creamy style potato salad with mayonnaise. Those are all delicious also, but I wanted something really fresh and healthy and different. And I just love this because I love all these ingredients. You can see our potatoes are holding together beautifully. You can see that the dressing has gotten basically completely distributed throughout our ingredients, and that's exactly what we want. That's exactly why we chilled everything. There's a method, or a method to my madness, I should say, with having certain steps for this recipe. So that's mixed together. And now all we do is mix in our last ingredient, the feta cheese. And again, you just wanted to give that a mix beforehand so the feta cheese doesn't get too broken up into nothingness. And that's another reason, again, you don't want to add, especially the cheese or the herbs, when things are warm. And again, I test these recipes and make those mistakes so that you don't have to. All right, that's pretty good. I think that looks incredible. I mean, look at this gorgeous mix of stuff that we have here. It is just absolutely beautiful. It makes my mouth water. I'm gonna serve this up and we are going to taste together. Okay, here it is. It's time to eat. I am gonna cook up some shrimp for myself and have it with this for lunch because I really love it like that. But let's look at this incredible salad. Look how tender the potatoes are, but they're not falling apart, right? It's that balance. I'm gonna get a bite of that. I'm gonna get some tomato. Whoops. It's so good. I love this. It's so healthy and fresh and delicious. I'm getting an olive. I'm gonna get a cucumber. I can't stop eating this. It's so good. How amazing. I will only brag about my recipes when I'm really, really, really proud of them. And I love this and I am very proud of this. I hope that you give this a try. All of my recipes are on my website, thegamblingchef.com/recipes. And you can watch recipe videos on there as well for everything. Please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow and like me on Facebook, and also I'm on Instagram. And I will see you guys next time for another incredible recipe.